Soil and water conservation districts were born in the late 1930s to help a torn and tattered nation heal itself from the devastation of the Dust Bowl era. America's soil was literally blown away with severe wind and water erosion. Conservation districts worked with and through private landowners to stop this loss of our nation's most fundamental productive resource, the soil. North Carolina played a huge role in the birth and the early years of the conservation districts. Today, those same districts continue to be unique governmental entities that can bring financial and technical resources to bear to solve local conservation problems. Yet, after more than 75 years of existence, very few people understand the legal basis for the work of the districts, what they can do and what they must do. I'm Richard Whisnant, a faculty member at the UNC School of Government in Chapel Hill. It's my great honor to carry on the work of Milton Heath, a former School of Government faculty member. Milton and I both want everyone to understand the opportunities and the limitations that North Carolina's soil and water conservation districts have. So I am delighted to share with you today a broad overview of the legal authority for the districts and the basic roles and responsibilities that soil and water conservation district supervisors have. I'm going to present my thoughts within the structure of those questions I already mentioned. What can soil and water conservation districts do, and what must they do? In addition, I will discuss some of the responsibilities of soil and water conservation district supervisors as public officials and their role in leading and guiding the work of the districts. In North Carolina, soil and water conservation districts are units of local government, and in a legal sense, that makes them very much like cities and counties. They have this status thanks to a state law, which I'll call the district law. It's Chapter 139 in the General Statutes, the North Carolina General Statutes. This law was first drafted as model state legislation back in the 1930s, drafted by a crack team of legal experts out of D.C. They were working under the direction of the father of soil conservation, Dr. Hugh Hammond Bennett, a native of Anson County, North Carolina, and a graduate, I'm proud to say, of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. The district law has been amended from time to time, and there are parts of it that have not worked as originally intended. But I can say confidently, as someone who has drafted legislation and who has seen laws come and go through the years, that this law has provided a very good, stable legal foundation for the work of the districts. And it is still the first place we go today to answer questions like, what can the districts do and what must they do? So the district law authorizes districts to operate as standalone units of local government. But through the years, many, though not all, of North Carolina's districts have found it more effective and more efficient to partner with counties and to operate more or less as a department of county government. The law is flexible enough to allow both arrangements. Districts that operate as standalone units, just like cities and counties, and districts that appear just like county departments or other county departments. In either case, the district law sets the number of supervisors, 3 elected members from each county in the district, and for almost all of our districts, that's 1 county per district, so 3 elected members, and then appointed members, generally 2, who are appointed by the State Soil and Water Conservation Commission. The State Commission has rulemaking authority and general oversight responsibility for the districts. So the commission itself is an important part of the answer to the question, what can districts do and what must they do? The commission's rules interpret and clarify parts of the district law that aren't spelled out in detail in the statute itself. And like all properly promulgated rules of North Carolina agencies, the commission's rules themselves have the force of law. Beyond the supervisors in each conservation district and the state commission, the districts operate as a hub in a partnership that includes district employees, federal agencies, notably the Natural Resources Conservation Service of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and state agencies, notably the State Division of Soil and Water Conservation in the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Taken as a whole, this conservation partnership is admittedly complex, but the complexity has evolved over the decades to meet particular challenges and opportunities, and it can work very well. To fully understand the work of the conservation districts, you need to know about the work of these other partners. And I'm just giving you a basic overview here today, so I will not try to cover all that ground. Suffice it to say that the district's work is best understood as a component of local, especially county, conservation efforts, as well as state and federal programs. So collaboration is baked into the model. So with that caveat, consider these things that districts can do as authorized by the district law. They can apply for and receive grants and contracts to carry out conservation work. They can undertake surveys and other assessments to figure out what is the most important conservation work to do in their area. They can enter into cooperative agreements with private landowners and other public agencies that have an interest in conservation. And this lets conservation happen both on private lands and on public lands. They can buy and sell interest in real estate. They can buy or lease equipment and allow that to be used by private landowners to improve conservation on their property. They can build, improve, and maintain structures like ponds, like stormwater control measures, like buildings. They can serve as agents for local, state, and federal governments. They can hire and manage their own employees and other agents. And they can sue or be sued. Now, that last one deserves more comment. What does it mean to be an entity that can sue or be sued? And how is that an authority for an agency? Another traditional way of saying this is that conservation districts are bodies, corporate and politic. This means in legal jargon that districts, like other local governments and like private corporations, are not merely informal associations of people who share an interest. They are legally created, formal entities, and that comes with some requirements. For example, the requirements to be governed by a board that has officers, the requirements to follow certain accountability procedures like keeping minutes, like keeping financial records, and having proper handling of corporate documents. If you are a district supervisor or district employee, you may worry about the fact that districts can be sued. And not just districts, individual supervisors and even employees do their work under a heightened threat of liability that most private citizens don't have and don't understand and unfortunately don't appreciate. But when all is said and done, The law has worked out ways to assure district supervisors and district employees that so long as they follow two fairly simple rules, the risk of personal or corporate liability is very low. Those rules are, first, always make sure your decisions are made and documented to advance the conservation mission of the district. And second, always make sure your district is following the laws that apply to all local governments, such as the Public Records Law, the Open Meetings Law, and the laws for handling the public's money. Districts that stray outside of either of these rules run a serious risk of liability. Districts, you see, are not merely corporate entities, they are public corporations. In fact, they are units of government. Public entities have several legal responsibilities above and beyond the requirements for private corporations. So let's consider for a moment what, as public officials, the Soil and Water District Supervisors must do. Among the many special requirements we place on public agencies like soil and water districts, three stand out as critical ones for district supervisors and district employees to understand. First, documents produced in the course of doing the business of the districts are public records, meaning they must be made available to the public for inspection and copying, and they must be preserved in accordance with a document retention schedule. Second, meetings of a majority of the district supervisors that get into discussions about the programs or activities of the district are open meetings. They've got to be made open to the public, and notice has got to be given to the public that the meeting is going to be held. Third, the monies handled by districts are public funds, no matter their source. Once they come into the district coffers, they become public funds. They must be budgeted and accounted for properly. They must be deposited only in officially created bank accounts, and they must be spent with certain financial controls in place. The details of these requirements for public records, for open meetings, for budget and fiscal controls are beyond the scope of this broad overview. But it's critically important for district supervisors and employees to understand that they have no choice in these matters, and that failing to meet these special requirements can undermine all of the good conservation work of the district. And they can even subject supervisors and staff to personal liability. So, it's well worth the time for all district employees and supervisors to ensure that the rules for public records, open meetings, and budget and fiscal controls are being followed. Don't take these things for granted. Districts that do a periodic review of their procedures for these things will put themselves on a much firmer foundation for excellence. There are some more particular things that districts have a responsibility to do. A central task is to assist the State Soil and Water Conservation Commission in implementing and supervising conservation programs. The particular programs have changed over time, and they will probably continue to change, but examples today include the Agricultural Cost Share Program, the Community Conservation Assistance Program, and the Ag Water Resources Assistance Program. For most North Carolina conservation districts, these programs have come in recent years to be the core of the district's work. Districts need a defensible ranking system for applications. They need spot checks to ensure quality work on the ground. They need timely handling of compliance issues. And they need accountability for funds and possibly other measures to make sure these programs are run in a fair, equitable, and open manner. With this general background on what districts can and must do legally, the next logical question to ask is who is most responsible to make sure these things happen? The quick answer to this question is the local Board of Supervisors in each district. The North Carolina legislature, through the district law, has given soil and water districts broad powers to develop and carry out soil and water conservation programs. But to make this law meaningful, supervisors must provide leadership by carrying out certain duties and responsibilities. Here are some of the most important duties and responsibilities of conservation district supervisors. I think of these as falling into four big categories: planning, decision-making, educating, and capacity building. Let's talk about the planning responsibilities that conservation district supervisors have. There's an old but still good adage: if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And for districts, there are two different kinds of plans that are important. First is the need to maintain an up-to-date long-range or strategic plan for soil and water conservation in the district. By agreement, this plan is to be updated at least every 5 years. But supervisors should recognize that this plan is their chance to say, over the long term, what are the most important conservation needs for their county or for their district. So it's certainly open to districts to update the strategic plan more often than every 5 years. Second, districts need to participate in developing and carrying out an annual work plan. This plan is going to carve out a portion of that long-range strategic plan for special emphasis during the current year. This is the way that a district sets priorities for addressing natural resource challenges, and it's a way of defending the district's actions and priorities should someone question decisions about the application of funds or the implementation of state and federal